Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode, or rather episodes, of Dark Matter, because it was back-to-back episodes, which I find very fascinating. This has been a week of back-to-back episodes. First, it's like From Dusk Till Dawn, then American Gothic, now Dark Matter. So just find that fascinating. It's like that. But nevertheless, going to run through the episodes one by one. The first episode, obviously, we having 5 getting kidnapped. And what I really liked about that episode is because we're deepening the relationship between 3 and 5. Because it's kind of because in her mind, she's always like, oh, you're always underestimating. It even comes up in the episode. She's like, oh, you're always underestimating. He's like, no, I stopped underestimating you the moment you snuck into my room and removed all the bullets from my guns. It's like, there's a difference between underestimating someone and not wanting them to get hurt. And it's just because it's like you see the way he reacts when she gets taken, and when he gets into the house where she's being held, shoots to 2 guys, runs out of ammo, literally beats the other guy down with the gun. He's like, "You son of a bitch!" And he's like super pissed. And he's like, "Oh, you okay?" Wraps her up with his coat. Like, to me, it's not even just a friend thing; it is like a family thing. To me, in my mind, I'm looking at it, I was like, that's almost like a very protective big brother. Like, are you okay? It's just like, I like that little relationship. And even to the point where he even went as far as being like saying all these mean things about how she's a burden to the crew and all that, just so that she wouldn't stay behind with him, because it's like, the GA is after him, and it's easier for her to get away. He's wounded and he's just going to slow her down. But it's like, he's like, you just go on ahead. But, he tried to, make her sad and just try and make her run off. But she was like, I'm sad because I know why you're doing this, that you're doing this because you legitimately do care about me. And it's just like, it's such a sweet moment. You even see it reflected even when Dyson, because I'm gonna refer to him as Dyson because I forget his character's name, even though it's mentioned. Like I said, terrible with names. I'm gonna have to mention that every time I end up forgetting character's name. I could easily call him by the actor's name, Chris Holden Reed, but I'm like, you know what? Just because I'm such a fan of Lost Girl, but even though I need to go back and finish that final season, I'm just gonna refer to him as Dyson. So Dyson, basically was like, you know what? We know that you're behind that. You delivered that device that basically killed all those hundreds of thousands of people on that planet. It's like, tell us the truth behind it. Originally, 3 wasn't going to say anything, but they were like, basically Dyson being persuasive, being like, okay, tell us you're behind it, and we'll let that girl go. If you don't, she's just going to suffer the same punishment as you. She'll get life, maybe even executed. You guys, you're already in deep shit because of all the stuff you've done in your past, so there's no hope for you, but there's still hope for that little girl, that she has a future. And then even start threatening, because the Marauders started flying above because they're looking for him. It's just like, hey, okay, we won't shoot down your friends if you tell us the truth. And he's like, okay, I did it. He started naming other people, being like, it was us, it was me. Whether other people are involved, okay, I don't know where they are, but it wasn't anyone from the Raza involved. It's like, told him, we were tricked into delivering it. We had no idea what it was. And Dyson responds by saying, all right, shoot down the Marauder. Because I guess in his mind, it was because he knew 3 was still lying to him. But still, nonetheless, he was willing to admit his own guilt. But the fact of the matter is, Dyson's a little bit anal about justice, because even from the beginning, he doesn't want them dead. He wants them captured, because it's like, oh, you have to, there's a procedure to this whole thing. So he is trying to go about things the right way. But I guess, like I said, I feel like more so than anything, his reason for doing that was because, okay, trying to convince 3 to kind of speak the truth and be like, no. Okay, yes, they were behind it, just don't shoot them down, type of thing. But luckily, 5 didn't run away. I mean, she ran away, but she did it to, get him help. And, she basically got him help by basically causing a large explosion and getting the Marauders' attention, and they were able to help him. And rather than, because all the GAs were clones, so rather than helping them, rather than killing them and, making it so they wake up without their memories, he let Dyson keep his memories. He just destroyed the recording. So I guess it's like, he's like, I'm fine with you knowing the truth, but now that device that was recording the whole conversation is gone, so you don't have any actual proof, because you're a stickler for the book. So it's like, yeah, go on doing your job knowing that you know the truth, but you can't prove anything. You don't have any definitive proof. So I think that's why maybe on some level 3 was giving him a chance, being like, okay, yes, I won't let you, like, because if I get rid of recording, there's no proof of what I told you. But now you can go investigate it for yourself and find out, like, oh, corporations behind it. Like, because in Dyson's mind, it's like about getting rid of any, it's trying to stop the coming war between the different corporations and stuff. So it wasn't even just an interesting episode on that part. That was like a bit focus of it. But another side of it is 6 still dealing with the fact that it's like, am I 100% trusted? It's like, yeah, I get free reign of the Raza, but they won't let me out onto the station. I need to be here on a ship supervised by the android. And he's basically been like, it's understandable I did betray them. I mean, and the android tried to make him feel better. It's like, well, I tried to kill you guys at one point, but look at me now. I'm part of the crew. Because in 6's mind, he's like, if it wasn't for 2, he wouldn't be here at all. Like, the others probably would have had him killed. An android tried to be like, no. They'll forgive you. You just got to give it a little time. And then there was a point where 6 was like, oh, I'm going to go help them. But it's like, android's like, no. 2 told me that you have to stay here. I have to follow the captain's orders. And she's like, I know that you're trying to do the right thing. I can tell. But nonetheless, he's like, okay, but, he's trying to be technical about it. It's like, well, it won't be me. It'll be a clone down there. I'll still be here. And even the android said a very fascinating thing. It's like, specifically pointed out a weakness of his and being like, if you do betray this trust I'm putting towards you, I will hit you in that specific area. And it's like, 6 is like, oh, that's good to know. And she's like, yes, it is good to know. And also, it led to an interesting conversation that wasn't brought up in the second episode, but I'm sure like it'll be something kept in the back of their minds proceeding forward. It was a conversation between 2 and 6, because 2 is like, 6 is like, with what the blank drive, we can basically change everything. I mean, things are already changing, but we could be at the forefront of this change, because the fact of the matter is, with this, like when the war comes, we could easily wipe out all the corporations, wipe out the GA, because the GA is corrupt and everything. Just get rid of everyone that's corrupt and basically leave it up to the people to decide who leads them. And 2's looking at like, okay, like, wait, what? So you want us to go from criminals to cops, basically villains to superheroes. And it's like, yeah. I mean, anyone that kind of steps out of line, that kind of tries to ruthlessly take the reins, like they can step in to kind of mediate certain things, like, problems between any group of people. But it's like, with this, things are already going to change without us. Like, even if we don't interfere, things are already in the process of changing. And it's like, we could ride that change and create an even better world. So it creates a very interesting thing to think of, that like them going from villains to heroes. I mean, it's not like they've always done the villainous thing. Granted, they do still sometimes, but that was more so to like, hey, we need like this to keep pushing forward. And it's like, I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to see, like, because the conversation ended there, because that was kind of how the episode ended. So it's like, we don't really know where 2 sits on that. I mean, whether she's really discussed that with the other members of the crew. I mean, granted, 6 was like, yeah, it doesn't really matter what they say, because at the end of the day, like, you have to, like, she's like, how can I convince them? It's like, you just do. Like, you will be the one to have to convince them. So it makes you wonder, like, how serious is she taking 6's suggestion about that? It's kind of something interesting. Trailing back a little bit, some things I wanted to talk about. The fact is, about the whole situation about 3 coming to 5's rescue. I love that, like, when he was stepping over that trap, that wire, and then I was like, oh, what is that, like a mine or something? He fiddled with it, and it's like, oh, it's a bear trap. And then he set it up elsewhere, and he purposely walks out in the open and draws that brother out, and he steps on it. It's like, that's pretty cool. And even then, like, not even just his side of things, also 5, because one of the guys that's talking, is like, oh, what are you going to do? Stab me with a spoon? Stabs him in the ear, punches him, kicks him, knocks him down. And it's like, yeah, she's not the helpless girl you think she is. I can't remember, has, like, anyone on the ship been training her, or is that just her natural scrappiness that got her through that situation? It's like, that was your fault. I mean, you deserve that for being a dick. I mean, they all deserve that for being dicks, because they were trying to sell her off. It's like, oh, like, even that dude she stabbed in the ear was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sell you off. It can slice off your skin. I'll wear it as a coat and whatever. They can work you to death in the mines. It's like, dude, what the hell? It's like, really, you got the nerve to be pissed at her stabbing you in the ear? You did kidnap her and trying to sell her, you piece of crap. So that was that. And then, well, I said that was kind of the ending of the episode, the whole thing with 2 and 6, but I forgot. The episode ended with 4 bringing up the discussion to the android about, getting his memories back. And that ties into the second episode, because the whole episode's about 4 trying to reclaim his throne. I like that part where he was talking to one of the, I guess, a general or whatever, and the guy was like, I'm not going to serve you. This guy's a traitor, killed his own father. Before he could go any further, where you turn around, sliced his head off. I was like, okay, that's very interesting. It's very, like, I'm surprised we didn't really get to see that transition of him getting to know get his memories back, and, like, seeing him transition into, I got my memories back, plus I'm keeping my old, like, the memories I've gotten since I lost my memories, and that in itself led to many interesting thing. Like, for instance, 5 was avoiding him, and 6 was like, why are you avoiding him? He's like, you weren't there. I saw 2, 3, and 4, like, who they were before their memories got wiped, and I don't want to see him like that again. I promised myself I didn't want to see any of them like that again, especially him. Like, I feel like out of any one of them, I don't know, I feel like 4 might be the most ruthless one. I think it's a tie between him and 2. Like, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like a 3-way tie, because they were all pretty ruthless, pretty bad back then, so... But then, 6 kind of brings up the example of himself. He's like, you look at who I am now. Because 5 is like, no, you're a good person. He's like, I'm like that because I lost my memories, and you guys helped make me a better person. I found out the truth, like, before I lost my memories. He basically told her something he's never told anyone. That basically, when he was working with the GA, that whole sting operation, the thing that kind of made him go a little crazy and almost try to kill himself, the operation where he found out, like, 10,000 people died, and the GA knew, but they were willing to make that sacrifice if it meant being able to capture those criminals. So it was just, and then, like, he brought up the fact this, and he went on to the next assignment. He went on to work like it was nothing. So it's like, who I was then, maybe I wasn't always a good guy, but who I am now, I've become a better person because of you. And the same thing for 4. So basically, that it's because he still has his memories of the time of, like, after losing his memories, that there's hope for him, which in itself, that does spring up many different things. For one, like, the whole conversation he has with 2, he's like, I like this 2 more. He's like, because original Portia, she was, like, merciless, and she was, like, being fueled by insecurity. You're confident and fueled by compassion. I like this 2 better. Even going as far as telling the android, he's like, I've always liked you. That, yeah, you were made this specific way by 2, but also by 5. And she's like, he's basically saying you have all the memories because you were recording everything in that time before we lost her memories. She's like, well, when she rebooted, she lost all of that. And he's like, nope, it's still there inside of you. Like, along with all that recording, she'll also find out why 2 and 5 made her the way she is, like, having emotions, making her very human-like. So it was like when you saw that, it was kind of like, oh, that's a sweet. And we also found out that apparently he was avoiding 3 because there's something from 3's past that he knew that 3 would ask him, like, oh, what is it about me that you remember? And, because we've heard 2 brought up and the android brought up, 5 to a certain degree, and 6 as well, but mainly 6 was brought up, and 4 was like, yeah, me and 2 found you out. Yeah, 2 wanted to kill you after you woke up from stasis. Me, I wanted to kill you beforehand. And he was like, oh, that's good to know. And then that ended up leading to a conversation of, like, hey, we need to use the blink drive. Like, I need to get my people to mass produce it, because it's how we're going to win this war. But then 6 is like, no, that's too much power for one army to have. Like, it's just... It goes against the entire conversation him and 2 had in the previous episode of it being like, hey, like, taking down these corporations so that, like, no one is just too powerful. I mean, granted, it's a little hypocritical because it's like, oh yeah, no one's too powerful, but yet you're there with all the power because you have this powerful device that no one in a galaxy or just in the universe has a device like this. You have one of a kind device that makes you super OP. So there is that. It's kind of an interesting conversation because it's like I do see four's point of view because it's like these are my people. I have to do everything I can to make sure that they survive. I have to look out for their well-being. And six is like, well, don't want to repeat it to corporations because it's like who's to say once your people get those blink drives that they won't, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that with you at the reins and stuff that they'll use it for evil, but it's like that's too much power, and a lot of power has a tendency to tempt people into doing some stuff, so it could lead to many disastrous effects down the road. Six didn't go into detail saying that, but you can kind of surmise from what he was saying. But I will say things went down a lot different than I thought they were going to, because at the beginning it's kind of like, oh yeah, like he could have easily killed his brother and stuff like that, because to me when it was all said and done, the whole thing with Misaki saying like, oh yeah, like at one point in time when they were younger she would have followed him to hell and back. I mean, not so much now. She can't believe him now because the only reason why is because back then she was in love with him and she calls him an idiot because he was oblivious to it, and he didn't himself never really realized it. But nonetheless, I was thinking like, okay, he spared his brother. He didn't kill his brother. He could have easily have killed a lot of people when he did, but it's like, no, he didn't. Like, I was like, oh, there's the force side of him that's keeping him a little more grounded. The original Rio probably would have just killed anyone that just kind of didn't agree with him, but he talked with his brother. He got him to be on his side, and they were going to work together because he even got his stepbrother, half brother, got his mom to be like, yeah, I did it. She confessed to him. That's like, I did it for you. Because he was like, I never wanted the throne. He's like, yeah, mom wanted the throne for you. Mainly because that way she'll have access to it. And when it was all said and done, I mean, we ended up finding out the reason why they were so easy to like figure out their moves. I was like, it's like, yeah, they're almost predicting everything you do. And it's like, the seers, and I figured that much, and then you see it is them. They made a deal. Basically this was all about getting, for them, they got something out of it, and that was getting Nyx back. Then the whole thing gets revealed to be like, oh wait, 4 was actually behind your brother killing himself. He convinced him to do so. So, which kind of ties into something earlier in the episode I didn't really talk about. The fact is that he kind of told Nyx, it's like, I don't need you. She's like, let me help you and stuff like that. And he's like, I don't need you. So maybe part of me think is him pushing her away because of what he did to her brother. Like, he's like, in his mind, he's like, I don't want us to get too close. Because that was the whole point from the beginning, was like, it's supposed to be a casual thing and there's supposed to be no feelings involved. But it seemed like feelings did grow, because even he was like, oh, like, I might have got my memories back, but my feelings for you haven't changed. But Nyx was like, but you have. So it's like, there is more to it than that. It's not just casual sex. Like, they have feelings for each other. Even that whole thing last episode where they were guessing colors and it was kind of like playful between them. That was kind of interesting. So, because what I was thinking is, it's like, okay, things are working out differently from this Rio than alternate reality Rio, because remember, for him, he had to kill a lot of people because there was a lot of people that like, oh, we're on your side, but secretly we're betraying you. For instance, his half brother ended up betraying him in the other reality, so he had to kill him. He had to kill a lot of generals because no one stayed on his side. But in this world, like, granted, everyone basically that was on his side died, but not by his hand. It was by his mother's hand, because she found out about their betrayal thanks to the seers. But because he was more understanding and compassionate because of his experience, he was willing to kind of give people a chance. Like I said, old Rio probably would have just killed anyone that wasn't rightly immediate, like who didn't bend to his will immediately, but he was willing to trust people. Like, I feel like old Rio wouldn't be so willing to, even with his memories, like, but because of his experiences with 4, it made him more willing to trust people. So I was thinking like, oh yeah, that's the advantage that, like, this reality's Rio had versus the other one, because he didn't have his experiences as 4 to kind of make him more compassionate towards everyone. So I was like, oh man, everything ended nicely. They're arrested. I mean, granted, Nyx now knows the truth about her brother. So like, part of, like I was saying, I think that was partly, to also distance themselves because of that, because he felt guilt about it. I mean, granted, him having guilt about that didn't stop him from having feelings for her, or them constantly hooking up. Didn't stop him there, but nonetheless. But then you get the kicker at the end of the episode where it's like, oh yeah, it's like the seer's like, oh yeah, you exile your mother, take your brother as kind of like one of your head generals, and then we walk away with nothing. There's no Nyx, and then we continue to work and have a prosperous relationship. And he's like, well, you're wrong. And then he literally has his people kill his half brother, kill his stepmom, kill the seers, and everyone's like, to Patricia's like, wait, what for? What are you doing? He's like, I'm not for. I'm Rio. And it's just like, oh, because their predictions are based on who he was as 4. Being compassionate, like 4 probably would have like done all that, but this is Rio, like his other side of himself kind of took control. Now I'm thinking, I mean, it may not be the case. I'm thinking Rio is going to capture his friends, like everyone on the Raza crew, because it's like, the reason I'm capturing you is because Six made that argument about like, we won't let you get the blink drive, and it's like, now he's just going to take it by force. I mean, he'll probably let them go afterwards, maybe, but that's going to be after his people mass produce it and win the war and stuff like that. Then he'll be like, okay, I'll let you go. And now I finally see it. This is the betrayal, because remember, Milo said someone will betray you. Because something that kept running through my mind the entire like second episode was like, Nyx has her skills, right? Because she's kind of a seer, and she's kind of got similar skills to 4 because of her powers of being able to kind of see and predict things. She can kind of maneuver and fight like 4. So I was like, so is this them setting it up so that when 4 dies or leaves the crew, it's like they still have someone just as skilled as him? I don't know. That's kind of like where my mind was, but it's like, yeah, but this, in the moment the episode ended, that's when it finally clicked. I was like, oh yeah, now we finally get to the betrayal, because it's like, because I was always thinking like maybe him making Milo kill himself was a betrayal, but at the same time, that wasn't just his decision. That was like, he talked Milo into it, but it was also something Milo probably felt like he needed to do, because it's like, yeah, because of what he can help the seers do. He was like, he knew eventually there'd be a point in time he wouldn't be able to fight them off, that they kind of sway him back to their side. He won't be able to mislead him like he was doing previously. So I don't know. It was just, I didn't see that coming, that at the end. And it's like, I don't know. Like I said, that could be what we get next episode, because next episode is the season finale. There's no telling how this is all going to play out. I mean, at best, maybe they get, I mean, because I don't know, because remember, like the android said, there's no separating your memories. Like once they put their memories back inside their heads, like there's no going back from there. Like once you get those memories back, you're stuck like that. You can't go back to losing your, I mean, granted, not unless they put Rio, I mean, with everything as it is now, it's kind of like with him back on the throne, that's not going to happen. So either they're going to escape and just leave him behind, like this will be like, you know, be our last time seeing 4. Or maybe not, I don't know, because maybe 4 technically doesn't exist anymore. Maybe Rio has completely overtaken 4, you know? Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I'm very interested to see like what goes down. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they're going to get locked up, but I'm very interested to see how this is all going to play out next episode. I'm super excited to see how the season ends. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.